I'm 85 years old, and when you watch this video, I will already be dead. It's not a beautiful sentence. It's not a metaphor. It's a fact, and that is a relief. I recorded this video several times, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew that once it was recorded, there would be no turning back. When you know you won't be around to answer questions, you stop explaining yourself and you start telling the truth. All my life, I had to justify my decisions, why I worked so much, why I took risks, why I seemed cold. Not today. Today, I don't need to defend myself. Today, I don't need to convince you. Today, I only leave behind what I learned. And I'll start with something that may surprise you. Money was never the most important thing I did right. It was what I learned much later, not to do wrong. My brother believed the opposite his entire life. He thought that if money came in, everything else would fix itself. He worked non-stop. He earned well. He never learned how to stop. When he finally wanted to, he no longer knew how to be at home without feeling useless. Brother, if you ever thought I judged you, it wasn't pride, it was fear. Fear of ending up like you, rich on the outside, exhausted on the inside. That's when I understood that money can give you options, but it can also take away your identity if you don't know who you are without it. Many people believe wealth protects you. That's not true. Wealth amplifies what you already are. If you're insecure, it makes you controlling. If you're ambitious, it makes you impatient. If you're afraid, it makes you calculating. Even with the people you say you love. I was all of that, at different times, with different excuses. And now I want to speak to my children, to you, my dear eldest son. I still remember the day you were born. I didn't know what to do with my hands. You were so small. I was afraid I'd break you just by touching you. That day I thought, now it's real. Now I have to rise to the occasion. And I tried. I worked more. I demanded more of myself. I became stronger on the outside. You grew up believing I always had the right answer, that I knew what to do, that I never doubted. The truth is, many times, I didn't have the right answer. I only had the most profitable one, the one that seemed safe, the one that didn't force me to stop. I did some things right with you. I taught you to keep your word, not to spend what you didn't have, not to run away when things were hard. But I also made mistakes. I confused firmness with distance, silence with example, and work with love. To you, my dear youngest daughter, the day you were born, I felt something different. Not fear, responsibility. I wanted to protect you from the entire world. And without realizing it, I even protected you from myself. You knew the moment I walked through the door that I wasn't really there. You could see it in the way I looked, in how I answered without listening, how quickly you learned not to interrupt me. And that's not something a little girl should ever have to learn. I'm sorry, my daughter. Not because I wasn't at home, but because I was always just passing through. Because you got used to waiting for me without knowing if I'd really arrive. There were good moments too, little details I may not remember, but that I hope you do. But there were also too many moments when I thought there would be time later, and there wasn't always. No one tells you when you start out that money doesn't remove problems, it replaces them. It replaces absence with excuses, hurry with responsibility, distance with silence. And sometimes, when you realize it, it's already too late to explain. I thought protecting meant providing. I thought loving meant securing. I thought being busy meant being committed. And while I was protecting the future, I was losing the present. To my children, I wasn't there for everything I should have been. Not because I couldn't, but because I thought there would be another chance. Sometimes responsibility is just an elegant excuse for not being present. To my wife, Sophie, I never told you this like this. Not because I didn't feel it, but because saying it would have meant changing. And I was always better at explaining myself than at transforming. You once told me, without reproach, without raising your voice, "You're here, but you're always solving something." It wasn't an accusation, it was an observation, and that made it harder to ignore. I believed I was being responsible. I believed carrying everything was a form of love. But while I was solving problems, you were learning not to tell me yours. I came home tired, thinking I had done my duty. You were tired of waiting for someone who was physically present, but emotionally always passing through. You didn't feel abandoned, you felt postponed, and that hurts more. I thought there would be time, that we'd talk later, that I'd change eventually. But life doesn't wait for you to finish being important elsewhere. Today I can say it without defending myself. I wasn't there when I should have been. And it wasn't because of a lack of love. It was fear. Fear of no longer being needed outside the home and having to learn how to be needed inside it. And you were right, Sophie. You always were. Economics taught me too late that opportunity cost isn't just money, it's time, it's listening, it's presence that doesn't show up on any balance sheet, but it always comes due. For years I thought having reserves, signed contracts, and assets gave me control. I was wrong. I thought control was in the numbers, in the balance sheets, in the projections I approved myself. Today I know control isn't in the figures, it's in dependency. I understood it the day one of my main clients decided to change suppliers. I remember the call perfectly. I was in my office, late, surrounded by papers that no longer mattered. It wasn't about price. It wasn't a mistake. It was strategy. I hung up the phone, and for a few seconds, I didn't know what to do with my hands. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. I hadn't lost a client. I had lost a crutch. To you, my partner, for months I pressured you to keep that contract. I asked you to stay calm when I was the one panicking. I talked to you about patience when I was the one afraid. I made you responsible for a dependency that I had allowed. And for that, I owe you an apology, my friend. I hold no resentment, quite the opposite. You taught me, without meaning to, that when you depend too much on a single source, you control nothing. Today I know that doesn't apply only to business. It applies to people too. Because when someone becomes your only source of security, it stops being a relationship and becomes a risk. There's something else I never told anyone. Not because it was serious, but because it wasn't allowed. For years, I did something that appeared in no contract, was approved by no board, and had it been known, would have changed many looks. I made important decisions without telling the whole truth. I didn't lie with words, I lied with silence. There was an investment that saved my company and ruined another. Legal, flawless on paper, but I knew something others didn't, and I chose not to say it. It wasn't illegal, it was worse, it was convenient. That night, I slept well. And that's what shames me most, because that's when I understood that you can cross certain lines without anyone noticing, without immediate punishment, without visible consequences. But something still breaks. From the outside, it looked like success. On the inside, I began to justify myself. I told myself it was the game, that this is how the world works, that if I didn't do it, someone else would. And maybe that was true, but the truth is this: not everything that's legal is right, and not everything that's right is convenient. I never spoke of this while I was alive, because I would have had to explain why I kept going when I still could have stopped. Today I leave it here because I gain nothing by hiding it anymore. And because if someone inherits anything from me, I want them to inherit this too. The true cost of some decisions isn't paid with money. It's paid with the part of you that stops asking questions. And that part never comes back. The greatest surprise of my life was this: discovering that I could live with secrets without anyone noticing. For years I believed that secrets were heavy, that they showed on your face, that they leaked into your voice. For years, I believed that secrets were heavy, that they showed on your face, that they betrayed your voice. They don't. Well-managed secrets make you efficient. They teach you not to tremble when you sign, to separate what you feel from what you do. I built an entire life that way, sealed, impenetrable. And then I met her, There was nothing extraordinary about it. It was just another meeting, a conversation that shouldn't have lasted more than 10 minutes. But she asked me a question no one had asked me in years. Why do you do it? She wasn't trying to impress me. She didn't want anything from me. She listened. And that was enough to unsettle everything. With her, I spoke about exhaustion, about doubt, about decisions I no longer knew had been the right ones. For months, I lived something new, vulnerability without strategy. And I understood how dangerous someone can be when they want nothing from you except honesty. She didn't dismantle my marriage, or my career, or my reputation. She dismantled the idea that I knew myself. That's why I stepped away, not abruptly, with order. The last time I saw her, she said only this: "One day, you're going to have to sit down with everything you're avoiding." I never answered. Today, I want to. I knew you were pregnant before you decided whether to tell me. I didn't feel joy or panic. I felt clarity. And I decided I would not exist in that story. Not because I didn't care, because I couldn't afford another vulnerability. A child is not just a bond, it's a permanent fracture. So I did what I knew how to do best. I disappeared without disappearing. I made sure you lacked nothing, everything except me. I followed your life from a distance. I always knew, and now I can say it plainly. It wasn't indifference. It was well-funded cowardice. I don't want your forgiveness. I want your understanding. I didn't fail you for lack of love. I failed because I never learned how to live without controlling the outcome. That child, our child, was the only truth I couldn't turn into an advantage, and that's why I hid it. Today, I say goodbye to you and to everyone I have loved. I don't leave money as a lesson. I leave judgment. So if you ever doubt, ask yourself this: does this decision make me freer, or does it only look intelligent? If it makes you freer, you're on the right path. If it only looks intelligent, be careful. Money is a tool. Life is not. Take care of them in that order.